And it was really only women writing on the internet that educating each other about these particular side effects that they figured out what was going on. I had a friend of my father's who's almost 80 years old. He bought the book just because he recognized the name, and he had it sitting around. And his wife was taking a medication, I think it was Fosamax, for prevention of osteoporosis, and she was developing some heartburn. And they went to the doctor. They said, well, here, take some Tums. He went home, he looked up the drug in the book, and he realized that it could cause something called erosive esophagitis, which is a potentially life-threatening event where you get corrosion in your esophagus. It's a side effect, a possible side effect of the medication. He's very thankful to me, and he still writes, emails me every week, and has become, a big fan of that particular book. That's just one example. Another example would be that a lot of people don't know that antibiotic medications like Cipro or Levaquin can damage your tendons. And there's people who have gone jogging and had their tendons snap off, and nobody knew what caused it. But they've been able to go onto the internet and discover that it actually has been shown in animal studies that it can affect your tendons, and it's given very commonly for urinary tract infections in women. And it's a potentially very dangerous drug. It's one of the most complained about drugs on some of these patient advocate websites. And so those are the kinds of things that people are starting to learn more about. And I think the internet has been great because, the old system of having the information filtered down from a pharmaceutical marketing executive to the drug representatives who are going into the doctor's offices, and they have a list of talking points literally where they're supposed to read certain things off the list, and if a doctor asks a question about a side effect, they have a canned response they're supposed to give. They give out studies that emphasize only one side of the story, and they don't show the studies that emphasize the other. And there's thousands of these medical journals. The doctors are very busy. They don't have time to go to the library and spend hours and hours reading about every particular medication, which has led to this vast imbalance of information. And I think now's the time when people are starting to look at the situation and say, how can we have a different approach?
Now, have you attempted to get the book translated into other languages in other countries? It might be more appreciated in other countries.
Well, the publisher has the rights to the foreign translation rights. As far as I know, they haven't pursued it. It was sort of a disappointment to me that a lot of the interest in the book, it got up to about 1,000 on Amazon.com, which is pretty good in the first 2 months after it came out. But a lot of the mainstream news establishments didn't really cover it all that much, even though, I've been interviewed by mainstream media people for other stories. It seems like a kind of a story that people, they don't want to touch. And so it didn't get as much publicity as I had hoped. And I don't really understand the reason for that, other than maybe that a lot of the marketing or the advertising, as you turn on the television, you see Abilify for depression, you see, maybe you should be taking this pill, or you see Sally Fields, talking about osteoporosis, or Dorothy Hamill, she's skating around on ice, which I call that one, she was skating on thin ice because she was promoting Vioxx, which can make you have a heart attack. But yeah, I'm not really sure what the solution to that is, but if it were translated, it would have to be every country has a different brand name for their medications, and one of the marketing schemes has been to take the real name, which is called the generic name of medications, and make it really complicated and difficult to remember, so that people are more likely to remember the brand name. So it's easier to remember, Paxil than it is to remember paroxetine or something like that. So that's just one example.